Hi, I'm Karen O'Brien, and I'm a professor of human geography at the University of Oslo, and I'm also co-founder of cCHANGE. My research focuses on the human and social dimensions of climate change, and I'm really excited by this year's theme for UWC Day, Inspire and Change. So congratulations to everybody on UWC Day. Climate change is one of the biggest issues facing humanity right now. We know that the world is warming and the consequences are increasingly visible. In fact, many scientists feel that they're happening much more faster than anticipated or expected earlier. In terms of global temperature records, the 10 warmest years ever recorded have all happened since 1998. In other words, in your lifetimes, in my lifetime. In fact, hundreds of temperature records were broken last summer when we saw extreme cases of heat waves, wildfires, droughts, and floods. Scientists are increasingly concerned that at some point we'll reach these tipping points where it becomes increasingly impossible to avoid a hothouse Earth, and that's a concern for all of us who are interested in human security and the future of people and the planet. If there's one thing that the science tells us about climate change, it's that the future is a choice. We can choose our pathway. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said with high certainty that without additional mitigation efforts beyond those in place today, and even with adaptation, warming by the end of the 21st century can lead to high to very high risk of severe, widespread, and irreversible impacts globally. And that's really important. Make no mistake that there's a huge difference between 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius warming and a 4 degrees Celsius warming, or between 30 centimeters of sea level rise and 2 meters of sea level rise. Given everything that we know about the human impacts of climate change, the influences on human security, on ecosystems, on species and biodiversity, on economies, and in life as we know it, we really need to turn our attention to that choice right now, and how do we transform in a direction of sustainability? The question I'm engaged with is, how do we transform at the rate, scale, magnitude, and depth that is called for by global change research? And how do we do that in an equitable, ethical, and sustainable way? As I said, scientists are really concerned about biophysical tipping points that can shift the Earth system dynamics irreversibly into new and different states and move us into a condition of hothouse Earth. But there are also social tipping points that can move us towards a sustainable and thrivable planet. And that's why I think it's so important that UWC's focus this year is on Inspire and Change. And that's what I'd like to talk about now in terms of how do we make change happen. I'm really interested in the change part of climate change. In other words, how do we change consciously, creatively, collaboratively, and collectively? Now, many people right now are pointing to the important role of technologies and behavioral change in terms of shifting towards sustainability. And I recognize that these are actually important solutions, but it is people who are the ones that discover, develop, and use technologies. And we're the ones that can promote this sustainable future. So recognizing that we are actually the solutions to climate change, I think, is a great starting point for approaching transformations to sustainability. We're all part of systems, and we all have a sphere of influence, whether it's in a household, whether it's in a school, a team, an organization, a community, a city, a nation, or even as part of global systems such as economic or environmental systems. Each of us actually matters a lot more than we think when it comes to change. There's a lot of attention these days to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and especially on our individual carbon footprints, with focus on what we eat, whether we recycle, how we get to work, etc. And there's no doubt that these things matter, but I think it's really that we matter much more than our carbon footprints. It's really about how we engage with larger systems and how we activate our individual and collective agency to create systemic changes and cultural shifts. So it's not just about what we eat, but it's about whether we can get sustainable food into the cafeterias, whether we can create good recycling systems, and whether we can build bicycle paths to help us get to work easier. Change happens much faster than we think, especially when we stand for universal values such as equity, dignity, and compassion that apply to everyone. And when these become the foundations of our conversations, our stories, and the actions that we take, watch out, world. As anthropologist Margaret Mead once said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. The idea that a small and committed group of citizens can change the world is really important, and that's why I'm really excited about the UWC Flecke's Global Challenge. We know that individuals can influence the global just as the global can influence the local, and the word global captures this really nicely. In a few weeks, 30 students and members of the Flecke community will take a 30-day global challenge where they'll commit to one small change and experience the ripple effects over 30 days and how their local solutions actually influence global challenges. The experience and reflections that they share will influence their stories, because stories travel, they inspire, and they create change. And I think this is far more effective than trying to force people to change or insisting that others see the world in the same way that we do and value the same things. Every one of us has the potential to shift cultures and to shift systems, and individually and collectively we matter much more than we all think. So good luck. I'm looking forward to following the Flecke Global Challenge and to being inspired and hopefully also changed. Enjoy the rest of your day today.